For nearly 3 centuries, the Galactic Union believed humanity had accepted its place. Not as rulers, not as warriors, but as engineers, traders, and diplomats. Every intelligence report described Earth the same way: creative, stubborn, technologically gifted, yet militarily average. That was exactly what humanity wanted everyone to believe. Unknown to every spy, satellite, and alien intelligence network, hidden far beyond Pluto's orbit inside an artificial dwarf planet, Earth's greatest secret had been under construction for 47 years. Project Aegis. Only 12 people in the entire solar system knew it existed. Even Earth's parliament believed military spending had been reduced. In reality, every cancelled battleship, every abandoned defense project, every missing research budget had quietly flowed into a single impossible creation. A flagship unlike anything the galaxy had ever imagined. Not merely larger, not merely stronger, something entirely different. And on the other side of known space, disaster was approaching. The Vorik Dominion had conquered 87 civilizations. Their fleets stretched across thousands of systems. Entire planets surrendered the moment Vorik warships entered orbit. Resistance was considered suicide. Supreme Commander Kravos smiled as his fleet crossed into human territory. Primitive species, he laughed. They'll surrender before our weapons even charge. Thousands of warships surrounded Earth's frontier colonies. Emergency broadcasts echoed through every human world. Families crowded shelters. News stations reported continuous updates. Markets crashed. Governments declared full military alert. The Galactic Union immediately called an emergency session. Delegates argued for hours. Some demanded negotiations. Others insisted humanity should surrender immediately. The Vorik cannot be defeated, one ambassador declared. They never lose. The vote was unanimous. Earth should surrender within 24 hours. Failure meant extinction. President Evelyn Carter listened silently before standing. Her answer shocked every delegate. No. Only one word. Nothing more. The chamber erupted into chaos. You cannot win. They'll erase your species. Think about your civilians. Evelyn remained calm. You believe you've measured humanity. She looked around the enormous chamber. You've measured the ships we've allowed you to see. Silence slowly spread. Then she added one sentence that confused everyone. The real fleet has never left its harbor. Even Earth's allies stared in disbelief. Real fleet? Humanity only possessed 2 carrier groups and a few hundred cruisers. Everyone knew that, didn't they? Far beyond Pluto, deep inside the frozen darkness, a mountain-sized structure began to move. Ice hundreds of kilometers thick cracked apart. Artificial rock split open. Massive engines that had slept for decades awakened together. The darkness itself seemed to tremble. Inside the command bridge, thousands of officers took their stations. Ancient systems came alive one by one. A calm artificial voice echoed throughout the colossal vessel. Project Aegis authorization confirmed. Flagship designation. A brief pause followed. Then came the words that had remained classified for almost half a century. Earth's secret flagship, Vanguard, is now operational. The awakening of Vanguard sent a ripple through the solar system unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. Hidden beneath layers of engineered rock and ice for 47 years, the colossal flagship slowly emerged from its artificial dwarf planet. Kilometer-thick armor reflected the distant sunlight as thousands of concealed weapon ports unfolded across its surface. Massive gravity engines ignited one after another, producing no flames, no explosions, only an eerie distortion of space itself. Every human officer aboard stood in silence. Some had trained their entire lives for this single moment. Many had never told their own families where they truly worked. Captain Adrian Kane stepped onto the central command platform and looked across the bridge. Status: Primary reactor online. Quantum shield at 100%. Graviton lances operational. Void drive synchronized. Crew readiness, 99.8%. A slight smile appeared on Kane's face. After 47 years, he said quietly, "it's finally time." Meanwhile, the Vorik Dominion advanced deeper into human territory. Commander Kravos wasn't in a hurry. Why should he be? Every civilization before humanity had surrendered within hours of seeing the Dominion's fleet. His armada contained over 18,000 warships. Planet-killer dreadnoughts floated at its center, surrounded by carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and millions of attack drones. Human resistance looked almost laughable. Sensors detected only a few defensive squadrons gathering near Earth's outer colonies. Kravos laughed. "Send them the surrender transmission again." A communication officer nodded. Message delivered. Seconds later, Earth's response arrived. There was no negotiation. No apology. Only 7 words appeared across every Vorik display. "You have crossed the wrong border. Retreat." The bridge erupted with laughter. Kravos slammed his fist onto the command chair. "They're threatening us? Destroy the colony." At that exact moment, every long-range sensor in the sector suddenly failed. Not damaged. Not jammed. Simply blinded. Stars disappeared from tactical displays. Navigation systems reported impossible gravitational fluctuations. Entire communication networks began collapsing. Engineers shouted across Vorik bridges. "Commander! We've lost hyperspace tracking. Quantum communications offline. Unknown gravitational wave approaching." Kravos frowned. What ship could generate a disturbance this large? No vessel on record has this kind of energy signature. The answer arrived seconds later. Something exited hyperspace. Not with the familiar blue flash used by every known civilization. Space itself folded inward. Reality twisted. A massive shadow emerged from the distortion. At first, the Vorik scanners couldn't even calculate its size. The computer repeatedly displayed the same message. Object exceeds database limits. Then visual cameras finally focused. Silence filled every bridge in the Dominion fleet. The flagship was enormous. Its sleek black hull stretched for dozens of kilometers, glowing with faint blue energy lines that pulsed like the heartbeat of a living giant. Towering weapon arrays rotated into firing position while an immense silver emblem of Earth shone across its armored bow. For the first time in recorded history, the Vorik fleet stopped advancing. Commander Kravos stared at the impossible vessel. His voice was barely a whisper. "What is that?" On Earth's command bridge, Captain Kane answered calmly. "Open every communication channel. I want the entire galaxy to hear this." A transmission echoed across thousands of star systems. "This is the Earth flagship Vanguard. You have exactly 10 minutes to leave human space. After that, history will remember today as your greatest mistake." For several long seconds, no one spoke. The transmission from Vanguard echoed across every military frequency in known space. From bustling trade worlds to remote mining colonies, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to watch the live broadcast. News networks interrupted every program. Across the Galactic Union, one question spread like wildfire. Where had this ship come from? On the bridge of the Vorik flagship, Commander Kravos finally broke the silence with a laugh. "A bluff." His officers looked uncertain. "Commander, our scanners still can't determine its power output." "It doesn't matter," Kravos replied. "No single ship can defeat the Dominion." He stood and pointed toward the enormous human flagship displayed on the main screen. "Charge the planet-killer cannons." Thousands of Vorik weapon systems began powering up simultaneously. Crimson energy raced along the hulls of dreadnoughts, and millions of attack drones surged forward like a dark cloud swallowing the stars. Back aboard Vanguard, Captain Adrian Kane remained perfectly calm. "Time remaining?" A young officer answered, 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Kane nodded. "Maintain course." No one rushed. No alarms sounded. The bridge was so quiet that the soft hum of the flagship's quantum core could be heard throughout the command deck. One nervous lieutenant finally asked, "Sir, aren't we going to attack first?" Kane smiled slightly. "No. We gave them a choice. If they refuse, They'll learn why humanity spent 47 years building this ship. In the Galactic Union Senate, the emergency session had turned into stunned silence. Delegates stared at the live tactical feed, watching the impossible confrontation unfold. An elderly ambassador whispered, "We've monitored Earth for 3 centuries. How did we miss something this large?" A military analyst answered with disbelief. "Because they never built it in orbit. They built it inside a hollow dwarf planet." The chamber erupted. Impossible! No civilization could hide a project of that scale. Another analyst shook his head. They didn't hide the project. They hid the budget. Every cancelled military contract, every abandoned shipyard, every failed research program had secretly supplied materials to Project Aegis. Humanity hadn't reduced its military. It had concentrated it into one masterpiece. Back in the battle zone, the countdown continued. 7 minutes. Commander Kravos had grown impatient. "Fire!" The order echoed across the Dominion fleet. A deafening barrage erupted. Thousands of plasma lances, antimatter torpedoes, and graviton missiles streaked toward Vanguard, illuminating space like a second sun. It was enough firepower to erase continents from entire planets. Across the galaxy, billions watched in horror. The attack struck. A blinding explosion swallowed the human flagship. The shockwave expanded for thousands of kilometers. Vorik officers cheered. "We got them. The ship is gone." But when the light finally faded, the cheers died instantly. Vanguard hadn't moved. Its shimmering blue quantum shield remained perfectly intact. Not a single scorch mark appeared on its black hull. On the bridge, an officer calmly reported, "Shield integrity, 100%. Captain Kane looked at the timer. 6 minutes remaining. Send Commander Kravos another message." The transmission appeared on every Vorik display. "That was your first mistake." Before Kravos could respond, Vanguard moved. Not forward. Not sideways. It simply vanished. Every sensor lost lock. Every targeting computer failed. Then, without warning, the colossal flagship reappeared directly behind the Dominion's massive battle line, something no ship of its size should have been capable of doing. Panic swept through the Vorik fleet. For the first time in centuries, the conquerors of 87 civilizations realized they were no longer the hunters. They had become the prey. Panic spread through the Vorik fleet like a virus. Impossible! How did it get behind us? Our sensors never detected a jump. Across hundreds of Dominion warships, officers scrambled to recalculate firing solutions. Tactical computers flashed error after error, unable to predict the movement of Earth's mysterious flagship. Commander Kravos gripped the arms of his command chair. "No ship that size can teleport." His chief scientist swallowed nervously. "It didn't teleport, Commander. It folded local space." Kravos turned sharply. "Explain." "The flagship isn't traveling through space. For a fraction of a second. It brings space to itself." Silence filled the bridge. Every officer understood what that meant. Humanity had mastered a technology every advanced civilization had considered physically impossible. On the bridge of Vanguard, Captain Adrian Kane watched the confused Dominion fleet without a trace of emotion. Remaining time? 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Any sign they're retreating? "No, Captain." Kane sighed. "Then we proceed." He tapped a control panel. "Activate Phase 1. Deep within the flagship, enormous energy conduits illuminated one after another. Hidden compartments opened across the ship's immense hull, revealing rows of unfamiliar weapon arrays. These weren't plasma cannons. They weren't railguns. They weren't lasers. No alien database contained a name for them. The bridge AI announced calmly, "Graviton Lance Network online. Targeting solution complete." Across the battlefield, Vorik commanders finally regained enough composure to counterattack. "All ships, surround the human flagship." Thousands of warships accelerated simultaneously, forming a massive sphere around Vanguard. Millions of attack drones surged forward while heavy dreadnoughts prepared another coordinated barrage. From a distance, it looked as though the single human ship had been completely trapped. The Galactic Union watched with growing anxiety. An ambassador whispered, "Even that flagship can't survive forever." Another slowly shook his head. "I don't think we're watching a battle anymore. I think we're watching a demonstration." Captain Kane stood from his chair. "For 47 years, he said quietly, humanity prepared for the day someone would mistake our patience for weakness." He looked toward the tactical display. "Fire one lance." Several officers exchanged surprised glances. "Only one, Captain?" "One is enough." A brilliant silver beam erupted from Vanguard's bow. Unlike ordinary weapons, it made no sound. No explosion. No visible recoil. It simply crossed the battlefield in an instant. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to bend. The Vorak Command Dreadnought, nearly 20 kilometers long, began collapsing inward. Its armor folded like paper. Engines compressed into glowing fragments. Entire sections twisted into impossibly small shapes before vanishing into a point of blinding white light. 3 seconds later, the dreadnought was gone. Not destroyed. Not exploded. Erased. The surrounding fleet fell completely silent. Commander Kravos stared at the empty space where his flagship escort had been. "What weapon was that?" His science officer answered with trembling hands. "It wasn't a weapon against the ship. It was a weapon against gravity." Fear spread faster than any communication signal. Dominion captains who had conquered dozens of worlds suddenly forgot every victory they had ever earned. Ships began backing away. Attack formations broke apart. Several commanders transmitted emergency retreat requests without waiting for orders. For the first time in the Dominion's history, its fleet had lost the will to fight. Captain Kane looked at the countdown. 1 minute and 52 seconds remained. He opened a fleet-wide communication channel. "This is your final warning. Leave human space now. The next shot will not target a single ship. It will target your fleet." Every screen aboard every Vorak vessel displayed the same timer as it continued counting relentlessly toward zero. And across the galaxy, billions watched in complete silence, wondering whether the next 60 seconds would end a war or change galactic history forever. The countdown reached its final minute. Across thousands of star systems, billions of eyes remained fixed on the live broadcast. Markets had stopped trading. Governments had suspended every meeting. Even ongoing wars between rival civilizations fell silent as fleets paused to witness the confrontation unfolding in human space. The timer glowed across every Vorak display. 59 seconds. Commander Kravos stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship. For the first time in his military career, he doubted his own judgment. Around him, officers pleaded for permission to retreat. "Commander, we've lost 12 command ships. Our targeting system still can't lock onto Vanguard. Morale is collapsing." Another officer spoke with visible fear. "If that gravity weapon fires across the fleet, there may not be a fleet left." Kravos clenched his fists. The Vorak Dominion had never retreated. Not once in 300 years. But history had never faced a ship like Vanguard. He looked at the timer. 30 seconds. Captain Adrian Kane remained calm. He wasn't interested in revenge. He wasn't interested in conquest. Humanity had built Vanguard for one purpose alone: to ensure that no civilization would ever threaten Earth again. "Weapon status?" he asked. The AI answered immediately. "Graviton Lance network fully charged. Stellar shield stable. Reality full drive ready. Awaiting command." Kane gave a single order. "Target the entire enemy formation." Across the flagship, hundreds of graviton emitters aligned in perfect synchronization. Blue-white energy surged through the ship's spine, illuminating the black hull until it looked like a star had been forged into the shape of a warship. Every Vorak sensor screamed warnings. Catastrophic gravitational event predicted. Fleet survival probability 0.7%. Panic erupted. Captains no longer waited for Kravos. Ships turned away from Earth in every direction, breaking formation in a desperate attempt to escape. Finally, Kravos lowered his head. "Order the retreat." The words were barely audible, yet they echoed through every Dominion vessel. Within seconds, thousands of Vorik warships activated their hyperspace drives and fled human territory. One by one, the invaders vanished into the darkness, abandoning the largest invasion fleet the galaxy had ever assembled. The timer reached. Captain Kane watched the last enemy signal disappear from the tactical display. He smiled faintly. "Cancel firing sequence." The bridge officers exchanged relieved glances. One lieutenant asked, "Sir, will we let them go?" Kane nodded. "Our objective was never to destroy them. It was to make sure they never come back." The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. The unstoppable Vorik Dominion had retreated. Not after a battle. Not after suffering massive losses. But after 10 minutes in the presence of a single human flagship. Galactic historians would later call it the 10-minute turning point. The balance of power shifted forever. Empires that had lived in fear of the Dominion declared their independence. Old alliances were reborn. Trade routes reopened, and worlds that had hidden behind defensive shields for generations finally looked toward the stars with hope. At an emergency session of the Galactic Union, every delegate stood as President Evelyn Carter entered the chamber. This time, no one questioned humanity. No one demanded surrender. Instead, the Chancellor spoke with quiet respect. "We believed humanity was weak because it sought peace." He bowed his head. "Today we learned that peace defended by overwhelming strength is stronger than fear." President Carter smiled. "Humanity never wanted to rule the galaxy. We only wanted the freedom to protect our home." Far beyond Pluto, Vanguard turned silently toward its hidden dock. Once again, the legendary flagship disappeared into the darkness. Its existence would remain one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries. Because humanity understood a lesson every civilization would remember from that day forward. The strongest weapon is the one your enemy never knew existed, until it was too late.